Hey guys, Diplex here again. I hope everyone had a good weekend. Let's recap the first week of my 100-player Call of War game. This video is sponsored by Call of War, so be sure to check out the link in the description box below to receive 2 months of premium and 20,000 gold. So, this is day 1. The game had just begun and it was about time to make my first move. As Sweden conquering Norway did seem like the most logical early game choice, so I began sending troops from all across my cucumber-shaped land to the Norwegian border in preparation for the invasion. Further south, I began construction of several different types of buildings in regions close to Denmark, but more importantly, Central Europe. Being Sweden, there really isn't any threat to my north. Karlstad, Linköping, Göteborg, Jönköping, Växjö, and Malmö all received construction orders. I beefed up production capacity in Stockholm, Östersund, and Luleå while working on improving the infrastructure throughout the entire country. And yes, I just named the regions in Swedish. Later that evening, I decided to spend most of my available gold on improving the production and construction speed of units and buildings in Gothenburg and Malmö, my 2 provinces closest to Denmark. Think of it as buying workforce from all over the globe, it'd get things done quicker. 2 divisions containing light tanks, infantry, and artillery were now ready to strike. My units in Malmö were so close to Copenhagen that the division artillery could actually shell the city defenders before even having to cross the strait. Isn't that sweet? I began attacking Norway during the early hours of the second day. Now, I was in bed and away from my computer, but I could manage the entire attack using the Call of War app on my phone. The land invasion was underway, and Norway seemed to have all of its units located along the coast and in their capital Oslo, so this wasn't going to be a hard struggle, but rather a long one. Later during the day, my infantry had made great progress. Oslo had fallen, and only a few regiments positioned along the coast remained. In the south, my artillery had destroyed the rather small garrison in Copenhagen, and my most southern division had crossed without resistance and was soon to take the city with ease. A while later, the 8th Light Tank Division had taken Copenhagen, and it was time to move further west. After some casual chatting, I had made a friend in the east, Arkhangelsk. See, I had the idea of teaming up with Finland and Arkhangelsk in order to prevent us from spending money and time worrying about our northern borders. This way, we could all turn our focus south, just as Arkhangelsk had done by invading central Russia. In another part of the world, the race for Jamestown and the island of St. Helena was on. Someone also wrote an article about it. On the 3rd day, Arkhangelsk woke up to some not-so-good news. Belarus and Poland had sided with Central Russia in the ongoing war. They fought together under the coalition known as the Comintern, which felt really appropriate. You know, I really appreciate the more realistic approach to coalitions. Like, what the fuck is this? At this time, my army in the south had fought through the night and was about to claim victory over Denmark. See, I knew I had to step in and help my unofficial ally Arkhangelsk in the war against communism, but in reality I didn't want to spend time fighting in the east. Despite the fact, I decided to raise troops in every province between Malmö and Stockholm as fast as I could. Time was at the essence. Finland was a fairly inactive player at this point, but I managed to scare him with the idea of communist rule in Finland, so he too sent units to Leningrad. The pact I had in mind was slowly becoming a reality due to the common threat. Leningrad's safety was assured for a while longer as Finland's nearby forces gathered around the city. Further south, my tactical bombers had switched targets from Danish units to Polish coastal cities, and Poland was feeling it. My navy and army was at Poland's poolside doorstep, and it was time to start negotiations. Lives could be saved, and Poland now had the chance to rid itself of its filthy Bolshevik friends. The threat of a naval invasion and the continuous bombing of Polish civilians made a rather positive impression. Poland agreed to leave the Comintern and set his sights on Belarus and Central Russia. Poland simply felt like someone I could trust, despite the fact that he turned on his eastern allies. The future of the Baltic region would rely heavily on Poland being a friend rather than an enemy. Poland would give up his gains in the east in return for my full support of his conquest of Czechoslovakia. Embarking and disembarking troops can take several hours, so I decided to waste no time and sent the already seasick troops to Iceland for a good old Anschluss. Day 4, and my transport ships were approaching their destination. More interestingly though, Italy had risen as a power in southern Europe and struck a quick deal with me to split Germany in half. Honestly, I might seem like a warmongering maniac, and I kind of am, but there is thought behind my choices. Gaining control of Germany's northern regions would strengthen my hold of the Baltic Sea, and besides, he did jack all. I kind of dislike him for picking such an instrumental nation such as Germany. If you're just gonna sit there, play as the Falklands, okay? Next day, my troops had taken Berlin and the surrounding regions with ease. Poland also joined in to gain a larger coastline and to prevent border war. The first week of play was coming to an end, and after seeing how the region started stabilizing, it was time to make it official. The Baltic Federation was formed. Headed by Sweden, its members included Poland, Finland, and of course Arkhangelsk. Other than forming a coalition, I spent the better half of the day inspecting my defenses outside Stockholm. As Emperor and Commander-in-Chief of the Swedish Armed Forces, one must visit the troops to boost morale. During my visit, I ordered Swedish troops to take Lithuania. Honestly, Finland didn't seem to show much interest in it, and I was suffering from food shortages due to my massive army. You heard me right. After conquering pretty much all of Scandinavia and the eastern Baltics, my country began to resemble the Swedish Empire of the early 18th century, so it felt appropriate to proclaim myself as emperor, something that California didn't appreciate and decided to whine about in a news article. How typical. Italy had strong ties with Yugoslavia and Romania to the east, something that Poland began to worry about. I improved my relations with Italy in order to strengthen the stability of the region and also to prevent a war between the somewhat smaller eastern states. So far, so good. Western Europe had completely slipped my attention, but it was now clear that the biggest players were Spain and Britain, also closely tied to Italy. Combined, Europe could now withstand any invasion. The last day of the first week proved interesting. Instead of sending the troops on Iceland back to Sweden, I instead decided on taking advantage of the ongoing chaos in North America. Greenland was swiftly conquered, and my troops had begun landing on Newfoundland and in Nova Scotia. Who knows what will happen next? The world is in flames, but luckily Europe is seeing better days. A united South America is in complete control of the continent, 2 massive coalitions are fighting for control of Africa, and anything going on elsewhere is too far away for me to spend any focus and energy on. At the end of the first week, the top scoring players are North Argentina, Syria, and South Africa. No European powers or allies in general can be seen on the top of the list, and that is rather frightening. That was all for week 1. Be sure to tune in next week for part 2, covering everything going on from today till next Monday. So be sure to leave a comment in the comment section below, where you can say anything about this format, what you would like to see, and perhaps if there is something you would like to have changed. Thank you for watching this video, and thanks once again to Call of War for sponsoring this video.